All right, last problem that we have here, number 7. As you can see here, we want to write the standard form of the hyperbola, when we know that the vertices are at negative 4, 2 and negative 14, 2. We also know that the slope of the asymptotes, the slope of the asymptotes is plus or minus 7/5. All right, so a lot of different ways that we can approach this problem, but we know that, obviously key piece of information is that we're given that this is a hyperbola. But again, one thing that I want to really stress here is that we don't have to draw an exact graph or sketch here. Instead, we're supposed to come up with the equation. But I don't know what my target is until we know whether or not my equation is going to be, my hyperbola is going to be horizontal or vertical. So I'm going to start by plotting the information. Try a straight line for a change. So again, I need to plot some points here. 5, 6, 10, 14. All right. So first piece of information, I'm given that the vertices are located at negative 4, negative 2, or negative 4, 2, excuse me. Negative 4, 2 is my first vertex, and then negative 14, 2 is my second vertex. All right, so mystery solved. Just by plotting those two vertices, we know that this is going to be a horizontal hyperbola, which means that I know that this is going to be a subtraction problem because it's a hyperbola, but I know that if it's horizontal, that the x term is going to, the x squared term, is going to be my positive. So for that reason, I'm going to consider my template to be like x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared, and that's equal to 1. So again, this is my template. That's what I'm hoping to plug in and fill in. We know that it's horizontal, again, based on the fact that our vertices, if we're to connect the two vertices with what's known as the transverse axis, that is going to be horizontal. Therefore, my hyperbola would be horizontal as well. Next piece of information that we could decipher is where the center point is located. So if I'm looking at plotting the center point exactly in between, again, negative 4, 2 and negative 14, 2, I believe that is going to happen right about there. This way I have 5 units to the left and 5 units to the right. So what that tells us is that my center point is going to be located at negative 9, 2. Which is great news because if I'm going to fill in this standard form, I need some pieces. I need to know H, K, A, and B for certain. And I may need to know C in order to figure out either the A or the B. But honestly, if I don't figure out C and I figure out the other 4, I'm good. I don't really need that. But once we have this information, again, the center point's at negative 9, 2, so H is negative 9, K is 2. The other piece of information that we can determine here is that we know the distance from the center point to a vertex, that's going to be a unit. So the nice thing here is that we're talking about a hyperbola, so the distance from center to vertex is A. Had this been an ellipse, center to vertex is still going to be A. All right? That's a pretty big deal for us. We need to kind of recognize that that's going to be important, of course. So again, from center to the vertex, I'm counting that, hopefully correctly, at 5 units, therefore A is 5. Okay. Now remember, we do not need our sketch. Again, we don't have to draw the hyperbola. We could continue on here and draw in a little bit further, but again, I really want to stress that we don't have to do that. Only because I feel like we could use a little bit of practice with slopes of asymptotes. That's the only reason why we're going to continue on. And you'll notice that we're not given the entire equation. Instead, we're just told that the slopes are plus or minus 7, 5. So if I'm looking to graph my slope of positive 7/5, please understand that that means that I'm going to go up 7 and I'm going to go over 5. I'm going to go down 7. As you can see, I'm not going to be very accurately done here, but I'm going to go down 7 and left 5. Once I have these points, again, here and here, again, we get rid of these dotted lines, so just to have a little less confusion up there. But those are going to be my asymptotes. So there's our first asymptote. If I were to go now for my negative 7/5, now I'm going to go down 7, right 5, and and yeah, I'll have a point out here. I'm going to go up 7, left 5, and I know that this is not perfectly sketched, but hopefully you're understanding what we're talking about, that now we have it. So remember what we talked about in class as day 1 of section 10.4, excuse me. The things that always have to happen with our asymptotes, number 1, is that there's always 2 of them. There's always a positive and there's always a negative. They're going to have the same ratio, just in opposite form, meaning one's positive, one's negative. But again, in this case, positive and negative 7/5. The other non-negotiable is that it has to go through the center point. Absolutely must go through the center point. And again, we know that for certain that that's going to be the case. All right. So from here, we could do a little bit of work. We know that we have to go through the vertices, and basically we just don't hit the asymptotes. As long as we do that, we're going to be in good shape on the sketch. But back to more along the lines of what we're trying to do. I'm told that the asymptotes have a slope of plus or minus 7/5. The moment we recognize that this hyperbola was going to be horizontal, that should send up a little bit of a red flag that my slope is going to be plus or minus b/a. So if I know that my slope is 7/5, and I know that my slope is supposed to be equal to b/a, we can start to piece things together, especially if we know that a is equal to 5. We plug in for 5 for a. Now we can pretty quickly go to work and figure out whether if you have to do it this way, we can cross multiply and divide. But I think that we can just decipher that, yep, b is going to equal 7. And once we have that, hopefully we recognize again that c isn't necessary. We do not plug c in anywhere for my equation. So once we have h, k, a, and b, it's a matter of looking at, yep, this was a horizontal hyperbola. Therefore, what you see in green there, that's the standard form. Again, we didn't need c. So now it's just a matter of filling in. So x minus h, so x minus negative 9 is x plus 9 squared over a squared. If a is 5, 5 squared is going to be 25. Minus y minus k, so y minus k is 2, squared over b squared. If b is 7, 7 squared is 49, and that is equal to 1. So my final answer is right. All right. So remember on the test tomorrow, or on Monday, excuse me, in the top left corner, we want you to put that circle. Make sure that you know what's going on. On the blog, you could find answer keys to a whole bunch of stuff. Remember the mandatory. This year, the mandatory was the pink homework assignment, the 10.0 through 10.4. The optional were the 2 yellow things. Again, we had the group review activity that we just honestly didn't do in class on Friday, but you have access to it. And the secondary optional homework assignment was the yellow packet. It was, again, another 10.0 through 10.4. So make sure that you are taking care of what needs to be taken care of in terms of being ready for Monday's test. Again, very manageable stuff. I know that we can do this. Make sure that you have a great weekend with prom and all that stuff. Be safe, make good decisions, all that good stuff. So again, I will talk to you guys and see you on Monday.